The immediate events of this uprising in Egypt are only a week old as of today. But here's how you can tell this story has ripened in American politics. Here's how you can tell it's already bearing ripe fruit. It is now being used by American politicians to promote some of their favorite pet ideas. People who are real advocates for their chosen policies are typically real opportunists as well. So if you have a chosen policy outcome, something that you want to happen, then every event you are called to comment on can be turned into a new reason to advocate for that thing that you always want anyway. So, for example, Republicans tend to really want tax cuts, right? In and of themselves, tax cuts are their own Republican reward. And so if the government, say, has a big budget surplus, that's a reason to call for tax cuts.
The growing surplus exists because taxes are too high and government is charging more than it needs. The people of America have been overcharged, and on their behalf, I'm here asking for a refund.
George W. Bush arguing in 2001 that because America had a big budget surplus, we should therefore have tax cuts. Now that America has a big budget deficit, Republicans say it's also time for tax cuts.
Obviously, you think the deficit is a major problem, don't you?
I do.
Was the tax deal, in your opinion, worth the $900 billion added to the deficit? Was it worth it in your mind?
Washington does not have a revenue problem. Washington has a spending problem. I think it's worth it. I think it will create jobs and help our economy.
So if you want tax cuts, then X happening in the world is a reason for tax cuts. Also, if the opposite of X happens in the world, that too is a reason for tax cuts. That's how opportunism works. That's opportunism in action. Here's how opportunism is working about the Egypt story. Here's John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the UN. He wants to run for president. Mr. Bolton's reaction to what's happening in Egypt is that he thinks it means it's time for somebody to bomb Iran.
I don't think there's much time to act, and I think the fall of an Egyptian government committed to the peace agreement will almost certainly speed that timetable up. As of now, I think Israel could do what needed to be done, but I don't think they can wait much longer.
For the record, there are some other occasions that John Bolton thought meant Iran should be bombed. When there was unrest in Gaza, December 2008, he said that was a good time to bomb Iran. When George W. Bush was preparing to leave office, that was a good time to bomb Iran because Mr. Bush hadn't gotten around to it yet. There was also a random Tuesday last February when it was a good time to bomb Iran because Iran's president said something John Bolton didn't like. And now Egypt. Something's happening in Egypt. Time to bomb Iran. The situation in Egypt is also being used right now by the drill baby drill crowd. Think Progress Today highlighting a number of Republicans in Congress, including Senator David Vitter, who have responded to the protests in Egypt by calling for increased oil drilling in the U.S. of A. Other news events that have precipitated a call by Republicans to drill baby drill? Well, there was the sluggish U.S. economy in the summer of 2008, reason to drill. A landslide victory by Republicans in the 2004 elections, also a reason to drill. A thoroughly debunked claim that China was magically drilling for oil off the coast of Cuba, reason to drill. Packers are in the Super Bowl. Reason to drill. Somebody's got a birthday today. Reason to drill. With some folks, opportunity is always knocking when it comes to their chosen policies. But for some folks, opportunism is not about pushing for a specific policy. It's about choosing every occasion as the right occasion to push for their favorite idea, for their favorite story. Like, for example, the idea, the story, that it's the end of the world.
This is the coming insurrection. It is. And it is imperative that you get up to speed, do your own homework. This is not about Egypt. This is about your hometown and your lifestyle. It is important to see what is really going on and what this leads to. I believe, again, the coming insurrection.
As opposed to the other times the coming insurrection was upon us. Now the people protesting against Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, now that means that the coming insurrection is upon us because China is going to take over New Zealand. Also, the Muslim world is all one country now.
There are three powers that you will see really emerge. One, a Muslim caliphate that controls the Mideast and parts of Europe. 2, China, that will control Asia, the southern half of Africa, part of the Middle East, Australia, maybe New Zealand, and God only knows what else. And Russia, which will control all of the old former Soviet Union bloc, plus maybe the Netherlands. Not really sure, but their strong arm is coming.
Oh, poor Amsterdam. I forgot also to say Russia's back. Russia's going to be like the Soviet Union, but worse. For Mr. Beck and for others who see a direct ratio between their own success and how afraid they can make their audiences, it turns out that an uprising in Egypt is even better evidence of this being the end of the world than, say, the last evidence we had, which was President Obama passing Wall Street reform last July.
How does creating a massive government bureaucracy with the power to watch your bank account and track every credit card account over your shoulder help your economic liberty? What is wrong with us, America? Why are people not in the streets? Your republic is over.
Wall Street reform. Your republic is out. The mainstream right and Republican congressional leaders are generally sort of supporting what the Obama administration is doing right now in regards to Egypt and diplomacy. They're being relatively cautious and diplomatic. But to the right of them, woohoo! Within a span of 1 week, it went from protest on the streets of Egypt to China's going to take over New Zealand. It went from protest on the streets of Egypt to Barack Obama supports the secret annihilation of Israel, and so do you. It went from protest on the streets of Egypt to this was all some secret plot hatched by unions. And if you're wondering, yes, this is all an elaborate excuse/explanation for us believing that Christwire.org was something other than satire yesterday. They say, quote, the escalating crisis in Egypt could become a defining moment for Sarah Palin. Governor Palin needs to speak out publicly and forcibly for an American-led invasion of Egypt to protect our interest in North America. As the largest recipient of foreign aid next to Israel, the U.S. has a tremendous investment in keeping Egypt stable and relatively terrorist-free. Upon her direction, other Western nations are sure to join us. An American-led invasion of North Africa. To be clear, this is what these folks are asking Sarah Palin to do. This is not Ms. Palin's own idea. Yeah, so those folks asking Sarah Palin to invade North Africa, it turns out are writers for a satirical website called Christwire.org, which is really actually very excellent. Props to them for a brilliant piece of satire. Shame on us for believing it. But in a world where China taking over New Zealand is what passes for real analysis on the situation in Egypt, how do we know that's not satire too?
This is the coming insurrection. This is what I have been warning about.